In every crowd, in every room, there's a story unfolding. You see the smiles, the handshakes, the polite nods. But beneath the surface, a silent game is being played. The game of human behavior, the game of deception and truth. And if you can read people like an open book, you hold the power. Today, we uncover the 3 greatest people-reading rules of all time. Tonight, we unravel the 3 eternal rules used by history's greatest minds to see through flesh and into souls. Number 1. The rule of the unseen eye. Sherlock Holmes and the art of obsession. London, 1890. A fog so thick it choked the streets. But one man saw through it all. Not with his eyes, but with the cold, relentless gaze of obsession. Sherlock Holmes once stood at a crime scene, his keen eyes scanning every detail as a body lay sprawled across the damp cobblestones. To the police it was a simple case, a suicide open and shut. But Holmes, he saw a murderer lurking in the details everyone else ignored. The rule of the unseen eye. Observe what others dismiss. Holmes crouched, running his fingers lightly over the victim's shoes, scuffed but on the outer edges, an inconsistency for a man who walked naturally. His gaze flicked to the wedding ring, dulled by neglect, though it had been polished daily, except that very morning. A half-smoked cigar rested nearby, its brand one favored by laborers, not the refined gentleman the victim was known to be. Each clue whispered a contradiction, and Holmes didn't just look. He hunted for the invisible. The smallest details told the loudest truths. The question wasn't whether this man had taken his own life. The question was, who wanted it to look that way? To develop Sherlock Holmes's rule of the unseen eye, the ability to observe what others dismiss, you need to train your mind to detect patterns, inconsistencies, and hidden details. Here's a step-by-step approach to sharpening this skill. 1. Train your observation skills. Practice. Active observation. When you enter a room, take 10 seconds to memorize details. Number of windows, objects on a table, people's expressions. Then close your eyes and recall as much as possible. Spot micro-expressions. Learn to read fleeting facial expressions that reveal true emotions, e.g., a forced smile with tense eyes. Watch body language, crossed arms, shifting weight, avoiding eye contact, all subtle clues about a person's thoughts and intentions. 2. Think like a detective. Ask why about everything. Instead of just noticing a coffee stain on someone's shirt, ask why it's there. Rushed morning, nervous energy. Identify inconsistencies. Just like Holmes noticed the wrong brand of cigar, look for mismatched behaviors. E.g., someone claims to be wealthy but wears cheap shoes. Reconstruct events. Backward. Work from effect to cause. If you see a broken glass on the floor, think, was it knocked over, thrown? Or did it fall naturally? 3. Sharpen your memory and recall. Use the memory palace technique. Associate information with vivid mental images in a familiar place. Play memory games. Try exercises like recalling license plates, overheard conversations, or rearranging shuffled objects in your mind. 4. Develop pattern recognition. Solve puzzles and riddles. Logic puzzles, chess, and strategy games enhance your ability to detect patterns. Study human behavior. Read books on psychology, like The Definitive Book of Body Language by Alan Pease. Question: what's missing? Negative space thinking. Instead of just seeing what's present, ask what should be there but isn't. E.g., Holmes noticed the missing morning polish on the wedding ring. Look beyond the obvious. If a room is too clean, was something erased? If someone avoids a topic, what are they hiding? 6. Practice in real life. Silent analysis. Exercise. While sitting in a cafe, analyze people's postures, dress, and movements to infer details about them. Narrate observations. Pretend you're narrating a detective novel. The man in the corner keeps checking his watch but hasn't ordered. He's waiting for someone. Spot lies in conversations. Listen for contradictions or nervous habits when people talk. Every day, try to notice one thing others ignore. Whether it's a misplaced object, an odd behavior, or a subtle detail, train yourself to uncover the unseen. Soon you'll start thinking like Sherlock Holmes. But what happens when the clues aren't in the world, but in the whispers of the human heart? The second rule is darker, far darker, and it begins with a man who wrote a book so dangerous it was banned by the Pope himself. Number 2. The Rule of the Puppeteer, Machiavelli and the Dance of Shadows. Florence, 1513, a dungeon, a prisoner, and a manuscript that would teach rulers to rule not with swords, but with the strings of human desire. Niccolo Machiavelli, once a powerful diplomat, now sat rotting in a cold, dark cell. Betrayed by the very men he had served, he had lost everything, his position, his influence, his freedom, but not his mind. As rats scurried across the damp stone floor, he devised the rule of the puppeteer. Control the game by understanding what people fear and what they crave. Stripped of power, he turned to the study of those who held it with an iron grip. Cesare Borgia, the cunning son of Pope Alexander VI, was no mere ruler. He was a master manipulator. Borgia gifted land to farmers, securing their gratitude, then executed dissenters publicly, ensuring obedience. He did not beg for loyalty, he manufactured it. 2 invisible levers dictated every human action: fear of pain. A man will obey to avoid suffering, greed for reward. A man will serve if he believes there's something to gain. Borgia mastered both. One day he rewarded his people with prosperity. The next he had an ally brutally slaughtered in the town square to remind everyone of his power. People didn't love him, but they feared to betray him. And this was Machiavelli's genius. All choices are traps if you know which levers to pull. Power was never about morality or justice. It was about control. Those who understood this ruled. Those who didn't were ruled. But even puppeteers bleed, and the greatest reader of souls in history wasn't a king or a philosopher. She was a queen who weaponized a glance, a woman who conquered empires without drawing a sword because she mastered the third rule. Number 3. The Rule of the Mirror, Cleopatra and the Alchemy of Emotion. Alexandria, 48 BC, a throne room. Julius Caesar, conqueror of nations, stood frozen, not by an army but by a single question from a woman who knew his soul better than he did. Cleopatra didn't seduce Caesar with beauty. She wielded something far more dangerous, the power of reflection. She used the rule of the mirror. Show people their hidden selves, and they will follow you to hell. When Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt, he did not come as a man. He came as a conqueror, expecting submission. His legions had crossed oceans, his name whispered in fear and admiration. He demanded Egypt's surrender, expecting Cleopatra to bow. But she did not cower. She did not plead. Instead, she spoke words that shattered his armor. You have conquered the world, yet still you hunger. You seek glory, but what is glory if it fades? Let me show you what true immortality looks like. In that moment, she didn't just resist Caesar. She revealed him to himself, his ambition, his insecurity, his desperate need to carve his name into eternity. She did not appeal to his reason. She mirrored his soul, showing him his own reflection, bigger, bolder, eternal. By the time he realized it, he was no longer holding the reins. She was. She understood what few ever do. People do not follow those who dominate them. They follow those who make them feel seen. By reflecting his deepest desires, Cleopatra didn't just seduce Caesar, she owned him. 3 rules, 3 masters. But here's the secret they never told you. The greatest rule isn't in these stories. It's in the question burning in your mind right now. Could I do this? Holmes, Machiavelli, Cleopatra. They weren't born seers. They became observers. They practiced until their eyes bled, until lies sounded like broken pianos, until silence screamed secrets. The next time someone speaks to you, don't listen. Watch. The twitch of a lip, the tremor of a hand, the pause that lasts a heartbeat too long. There's a truth hidden there, waiting for you to claim it. The rules are written. Now go and read the world. But be warned, once you see the strings, you can't unsee them. And soon, you'll wonder who's pulling yours. The rules are written. Now go and read the world. Ink like veins through pages curled. Each letter whispers, each word deceives. Truth is a mask that no one believes. Shadows move where none should creep. Lies are sown in roots too deep. A handshake, a smile, a lover's sigh, all mere echoes of the strings that tie. The beggar weeps, the king commands, yet both are puppets in unseen hands. Step too close and you'll feel the thread, thin as a whisper, strong as the dead. The more you learn, the less you sleep. The deeper you stare, the more it keeps. Knowledge is hunger, it eats you whole, tears at the flesh, devours the soul. So read if you dare, but heed this plea. Some doors don't shut once you find the key. For once you see the strings, you can't unsee them. And soon, you'll wonder who's pulling yours.